Good morning. Good morning from Melbourne, Australia. Good evening to friends in North America, and hello to anyone watching on replay. My name is Nancy Hetker, and I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator based in Melbourne, Australia. And today, I'm sorry for the slightly late start. It is an interesting experience having my craft room double as a guest room with a couple of young people who like to sleep in a little bit later than I do. But I'm not stressed. Nope, not stressed at all. We'll get started here. The first thing I want to do is let you know that today is March 1st here in Australia, and that means that our new online exclusives line has gone live. There are all kinds of cute things. I know I have shown you this irresistible, what is it called? Irresistible Blooms Sweet Collection, because I ordered that. And I have shown you, I think, a little bit these basic 3D embossing folders. And I'm going to be using those again today. I did not purchase the Naturally Gilded 12 by 12, but I've seen some really cool projects with it. I did not purchase the Classic Glitter stamp set, and there are other really, really cute things now available in this online exclusive section. So if you get a chance, go over to stampinup.com.au and take a look for that. Make sure if you're purchasing that you do register as purchasing as my customer. I would appreciate that. And I do have links directly to the Stampin' Up! Store from my website, nancysniftynotes.com, that make sure that you are linked up to me as your demonstrator. Hello to Paula and Gladys and my mom. Thanks for joining me this morning. So it's March 1st here, which means that celebration ended here yesterday. Hopefully you got a pack of the, what's it called? Dainty. Oh, my brain is 8 million places today. Sorry, Dainty Flowers, that's it. This Dainty Flowers paper, and you've seen me do a bunch of projects with this because it's really, really pretty. There's a couple different, these look very similar, but they are different. A couple different patterns, and then the back side. But I think perhaps the most popular sheets, although I do like the back sides of these two, especially these two, there was one that had wreaths of flowers, and that's what we're going to use today. So let me put that aside and show you. This is one of the cards we're going to be making today. And this paper had, 8 wreaths, I think, per sheet, plus another band of a border of flowers in the middle of them. And I cased this idea from another demonstrator here, and it looked to me, you can fussy cut with your paper snips these wreaths, but I put mine, I have a Brother Scan and Cut electronic cutter, and I think it did a great job cutting those out. It scanned it, I told it to leave a little bit of a border, and then it just zip, 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 cut those out, and I didn't have to hand cut them. So I'm pretty happy with those. So this card I made, I'm going to see if I can get the lighting and the positioning so that you can see the embossing on there. And that's going to take me a moment, and hopefully I don't bump the camera too much. This one has the embossing folder, one of the new 3D Basics 3D embossing folders. This one I'm calling the Stars pattern. Let me go grab those so you can see them. So we don't usually get embossing folders. Well, we've gotten the narrower ones in sets of 2, but this is a set of 3 full-size embossing folders, and one is some very large and tall dots. This one I'm calling the crosshatch. And this one is that star pattern that I used on this card. So I was going to do, since I have 3 of these and 3 of these, I thought I'd do one of each background pattern, and we can compare those. For those of you who don't know, I am about to go into hospital for surgery. I've got a abnormal pituitary. It's benign, but it does secrete some extra steroids and hormones that are not beneficial. So I've had this surgery once before and going back in to knock it back again. And I go in tomorrow, so I've got about 8 million things on my to-do list, most of which I have done, but that doesn't reduce the stress and feeling like there's lots to do before I go. So I'm just cutting down a couple of layers here to go onto my card base for this card. And I'll have to cut another set as well. And so all of that is to say, next week I will not be doing a Facebook Live. I should be home from hospital, but I imagine I'm not going to be feeling up to too much yet. So I've made that executive decision. Paula asked, do I order more than one? It depends, is my answer. I rarely order more than one pack of paper because there's always more paper coming out. And the exception to that is when I know I'm doing a lot of class projects that I want either a lot of a particular sheet or I just know we're going to go through a lot of it. My suspicion is that's why Stampin' Up! Does still do some release stuff as 6x6 papers because it's less efficient for card making, and so I wind up, it's usually those, not always, but it's usually those that I wind up having to buy 2 packs. But no, I consider it a victory if I've used up basically an entire pack of pattern paper by the time it retires. Now, the exception to that almost always is when it's a celebration paper that you get for free. There's a limited number of choices during celebration, so I often wind up with multiple packs of the designer series paper from Celebration, which is fine because I can usually sell it or I use it as like door prizes or promotional gifts in the future, and that's just fine. For instance, I just did a silent auction box, and I included from the last celebration or 2 celebrations ago, it was a pack of designer series paper with a coordinating stamp set, and I added some cardstock and matching inks and such, and I was able to put together a nice basket that way, and so that was cool. So, okay, now it's time to check out these embossing folders and how they do. And I'm going to go ahead and bring my cut and emboss over here. It has to be my full-size one. Sorry, that's going to be right in your face there because they are the full-size folders and they don't fit in the mini, which is why you will see on my supply list I almost always just put the full-size cut and emboss because I don't want any of my customers thinking that they're going to buy the mini for less money and less space and be able to do everything they want to do, because I know that they're going to be heartbroken when they can't use something they've purchased. So Always put your embossing folders through hinge side first. That would be this side, so that you don't push against the hinge and stress it out and break it. This has happened to me. So that's the crosshatch one. And I do love how really nicely these 3D folders emboss. And here's my other tip for you. If you're working with something that it matters that it's straight, the line that they put on the embossing folder really helps you line things up. Yeah, so now I can see I've got it a little bit crooked. I don't know if you can see that. And it's probably not enough to make a huge difference, but I know that I'll be able to see it. There we go. Thank you, Gladys, for your good wishes. Okay, look at that one. And I'm going to get this out of the way now. Look at those two I just did. And I really like the texture. So I'll bring in card bases. So if you're new to Stampin' With Me, let me chatter a little bit about me. I have been stamping since, I think 2007, when I went to be polite to an open house that a demonstrator who was new to town was holding, and I got sucked in. And after a couple years of stamping with her and her telling me that I was really missing out on a good deal by not signing up, I realized she was right. And I signed up for the discount. But I was already sharing what I had discovered I loved to do with friends. So it kind of became easy to be doing classes and then a blog and on and on. And when I moved from Illinois to Arizona, I brought my business with me and started it up there and met lots of nice people and had fun stamping there. And when my husband said, I think we've got the opportunity to go to Australia, I said, Stampin' Up's in Australia. I can do that. So here we are. And I have made most of my friends in Australia through stamping. So stamping's been very good to me. So these are just really simple, lined up. The background mat is crushed curry, which I think works nicely with the black. Get that out of the way. And then I'm going to bring in, show you those there. I'm going to stamp, and I think I like them this way. And the first one I did, I used this, I didn't forget your birthday, I'm just stretching out the celebration. And I think I'm just going to go ahead and do both of those like that. I think this is going to join my collection of cards that I send out to people for their birthdays. And I send them as a gift so that they can then send them on to somebody else when they're ready. So I think that will be a nice one to send out to birthday people. And big thanks to my mom and dad, because I send them big packets of cards all addressed to go to people in the United States, and they put U.S. postage on them and send them on for me a couple times a month. And I am very appreciative of that, and I'm sure my recipients are too, because they tell me that all the time. So one of the things I do like about this paper is that it was watercolored onto a textured watercolor paper. I'm going to bring this up and see if you can see that. And when they photographed it, they managed to get the texture of the watercolor paper. Yes, I do think you can see that in the photograph. So I think that's pretty cool. Even on this side where it's been watercolor wash on the watercolor paper that's very textured, you can see the texture in there. So now I'm going to add lots of dimensionals. This is one of the places I like to have these strips of them from the edges. It makes it easy. What else is going on? Well, Andrew and Emma, of course, are still here. And that's being very fun. So, making sure I have my card oriented the correct way. And we'll do this one. Do we need a little more? I can hear Andrew out in the other room. He's on a call with his work back in Arizona. He works remotely in Colorado for a company that's based in Phoenix. And he can work from anywhere, so they're happy for him to be working from here right now, which is good. It does mean that when he's working in Colorado, sometimes he has to be up really late to have meetings with clients who are in Asia. And now it means he can talk to clients in Asia in normal hours, but he does sometimes, like yesterday, have to get up really early to have company-wide meetings in Phoenix. So, you know, trade-offs. Okay, so I went in and I pulled out, I've got a little bit of this gingham ribbon that's retired, but I thought it went nicely with this pattern. The demonstrator I saw this with, she used a gold shimmer, and I like that, but I just thought this would be a good way to use up some more of this. And get some bows tied here. If you are not good at tying bows, the advice I usually give is to take a length of various ribbons, twines, anything you think you're going to be using to make bows, and sit down with a podcast or an audiobook or a TV show you like to watch and tie bows and untie them, and tie bows and untie them. Because a lot of it is winds up being kind of muscle memory, or learning how the ribbons twist and turn and what you want to do to straighten them out. And just keep going until you get the hang of it. And I have decided recently, I don't know if it's that I've got some old glue dots or what, but I've started using tear and tape on the back of my ribbons instead of glue dots. And I think I'm getting them to hold a bit better. So I'm going to do that. And then I can see where I want to trim off. The ribbon there. And we'll do one more. Last night I went with a couple of friends to see the British comedian Sarah Millican. You can look her up on YouTube if you want. And she's funny. I'd really just seen like short little YouTube clips of her before, and she's funny. But I'd probably stick to seeing her in little YouTube clips from now on. I don't think I'd go back to another show. It was fun, but a little more tape. In the last 6 months or so, I've seen Hannah Gadsby live, and I've seen, what was his name? Billy. I'll come up with it. And I would definitely go back to their shows again. Hannah Gadsby in particular, she's an amazing, amazing comedian who does the arc of her show. I mean, she opened with a joke, and she managed to touch on it throughout the show just enough that when she, it was funny in the first instance, but, it was the payoff at the very end of the show, too. It was just masterful. I would definitely go see her shows again. And I believe she's got hers on Netflix, if you get a chance. Very worth seeing. Okay, so I have the basic cards done with bows. And then I'll bring in my original one here. You can see. And it's amazing. You think, well, these are nice cards. But just adding these little bits of embellishment, I think, adds a lot. So I'm going to pull those out again. And these are our pretty new adhesive-backed milky dots, and that's because the color is kind of milky, like milk paint. And like so many Stampin' Up! Colors, they're all just kind of almost, there's a lot of them that are very, very subtle variations. So the cardstock I told you was crushed curry. Technically, this ribbon is called Bumblebee, which was an in color a couple years ago. But it looks, well, I always had trouble telling crushed curry, which is a regular color, from Bumblebee. So big deal. But these are supposed to be Mango Melody, which is really a much more orangey color than these. But the way these dots go, they blend right in there. So I'm happy to use those. And we will, I think, just replicate what I did before, although the placement might be a little different with the different embossings. Let's see here. Let's see how that's going to work. And I'm Probably gonna mush down the embossing a little bit on those to get them to stick. Yep. And this one I'm gonna come down more like there, I think. And we'll do the same thing over here. And doing kind of there. And there we go. I do like to use the cap of this to push down, because if you're doing a lot of them and you're pushing with your fingertip gets sore. So I discovered that's a good workaround for that. Get these out of here. And those are my cards for today. I will be back in, let's get them so you can actually see them all, in 2 weeks. Oh, I do have one other thing, a little sneak peek for you, because you guys saw me make this background piece that I then cut up with my heart punch to make the spray of hearts on a card maybe about a month or so ago. And I had an extra piece of this and I wanted to show you what I did with it. So, and it's got some of our iridescent rhinestones on it. I just think that's pretty cool. So thank you for joining me. Here are these again, and I will be back. My plan is to be back live with you in 2 weeks. Just keep watching my personal Facebook page for updates if you care, and then of course my this Facebook page for updates on the live if there are any changes, or I will just see you back here in 2 weeks. Take care. See you then. Bye-bye.